Welcome to this explainer. Look, if you're in the final countdown to a major maths exam, I know the exact pressure you're feeling right now. You're probably staring at this massive mountain of formulas, flipping through endless chapters and wondering, is there actually enough time left to pull this off? Honestly, that last week panic is completely normal. But today, we're going to absolutely neutralize it. I'm stepping in as your coach to lower that anxiety by sharing a highly strategic, totally actionable playbook. And let me be clear, this is not about cramming. It's a playbook specifically designed to maximize your marks using exactly what you already know. We are not starting from scratch today. We are optimizing, structuring, and protecting your hard-earned knowledge. Let's get into it.
Here is a quick look at our roadmap for today. First, we'll tackle the last week reality. Second, the 7-day framework. Third, the mistake log method. Fourth, mastering exam time management. And finally, exam day execution.
Section 1. The last week reality. What's really interesting about this first step is accepting a pretty hard truth. We absolutely cannot rewrite the entire syllabus right now. You have to abandon the panic-driven cramming of completely new chapters. You just don't have the time to build deep conceptual knowledge from scratch. Instead, your optimal time investment requires an aggressive shift in strategy. You need to focus heavily on your strong, high-weighted chapters. Dedicate a solid 60 to 70% of your revision time right there. Why? Because locking down those guaranteed marks builds massive psychological momentum. When you know your strong suits are bulletproof, your confidence just soars. Next, you allocate about 20 to 30% of your time to moderate chapters, where you just need a bit of polish to push them into the safe zone. And finally, only use whatever tiny sliver of time is left for your weak topics, maybe just grabbing some basic formulas in case you can snag a partial method mark. This is exactly how you work smart, not just hard.
Section 2. The 7-day framework.
Having a theory is great, but mapping it to a calendar is where the real magic happens. So let's build your structured countdown. Your overarching game plan needs to move systematically. You start with core formula consolidation on days 1 and 2 to really build your foundation. Then you move straight into intensive, chapter-wise practice for days 3 and 4. By days 5 and 6, you transition to strict, timed mock tests to simulate the actual exam environment. And finally, you have a vital day of rest and light review on day 7. Now listen to me. That rest on day 7 is non-negotiable. It allows your brain to consolidate everything you've just practiced so you don't burn out right on the starting line. Now, if you only have 4 days left, you can compress the early stages, but never, ever skip that core progression of revise, practice, test, and rest.
Zooming into your daily routine, you should aim to protect at least 4 focused hours for maths every single day. Let's walk through what that looks like. You kick off the morning with fresh revision and rigorous formula writing, capitalizing on the time when your brain is sharpest. Mid-morning transitions into actually solving practice problems and tackling past papers. Then, in the afternoon, you escalate to timed section practice to start feeling the pressure of the clock. Your evening? That's dedicated to reviewing your mistake log, which we'll talk about in a second, and maybe trying a mock section. Finally, cap off the night with a 30 to 45-minute calm review, and most importantly, get to sleep by a fixed time to lock in all those memories. Oh, and between these high-impact blocks, please make sure you get some short physical movement. Sitting completely still for hours on end literally kills your concentration.
Section 3. The mistake log method.
The crucial point here is execution, which brings us to your absolute secret weapon for this final week, the mistake log. This is a dedicated record that notes 3 critical pieces of information. First, the specific question type. Second, the exact error you made. Was it a calculation mistake, a conceptual misunderstanding, or did you just misread the prompt? And third, the correct approach written out in 1 or 2 clear lines. You have to keep this log. It is mandatory. Correcting your specific error patterns raises your score dramatically faster than trying to blindly learn new content. Because as you log these errors, patterns start to emerge. Maybe you constantly drop negative signs in algebra, or maybe you always forget units in geometry. By trapping these exact errors on paper, you become hyper-aware of them, which prevents you from throwing away easy marks on exam day.
To feed that log, try turning your revision into a highly efficient 3-step action loop for every single chapter. Step 1. Do a quick 15 to 20-minute read of your notes to refresh those core concepts. Step 2. Dive right in and solve 8 to 12 representative problems of varying difficulty. Step 3. Immediately check your solutions and trap any of your errors straight into your log. This continuous loop is so incredibly powerful because it forces active recall and immediately highlights the actual gaps in your knowledge.
Now, a super quick but essential note on formulas. Please don't just passively read them. You must write them out by hand, ideally twice a day. The physical act of writing improves retention far, far more than typing or simply staring at a page. Write them out,
cover them up, try to reproduce them entirely from memory, and then immediately correct any errors. Building that muscle memory literally burns the formulas into your neural pathways. That way, when you're under the stress of the exam room, your hand almost knows what to write before your brain even finishes processing the question.
Section 4. Mastering exam time management.
Once those formulas are locked in, we need to talk about the dress rehearsal. Because knowing the math is really only half the battle. The other half is tackling the clock. When you take your strict timed mock tests on days 3 through 6, sit at a desk with absolutely zero distractions. And once you're finished, you need to spend as much time categorizing your errors into specific buckets as you did solving the paper. Ask yourself, was it a conceptual error? Did you simply forget or misremember a formula? Was it a careless calculation mistake? Did time pressure cause an incomplete answer? Or did you just misread the question entirely? Identifying the precise why behind your mistakes is quite literally the only way you fix them before the real deal. Here is an incredibly punchy target I want you to remember for those mock tests: 2 hours and 15 minutes. For a standard 3-hour paper, your absolute goal is to finish your first pass of confident questions in exactly 2 hours and 15 minutes. Why? Because this leaves you with a massive 45-minute buffer. But you don't just sit there staring blankly with that extra time. You use those 45 minutes to breathe, systematically recheck your high-value 5-mark questions, actively hunt for hidden calculation errors, and finally tackle those stubborn, difficult problems you wisely skipped on your first pass. While you're managing all that time, it is absolutely crucial to secure your presentation marks by adapting your strategy to the exact question type. Think about it. A 1 to 2 mark question? That demands a precise, direct approach. No lengthy explanations, just get straight to the point. But if we're talking about a 3 to 5 mark question, your strategy has to shift. You must explicitly state the formula, clearly show your intermediate steps, and write a firm conclusion. Even if your final calculation is slightly off, examiners will often award method marks just for those steps. And what about those tricky application or word problems? Your primary strategy there is to translate the English into math. Define your variables clearly right from the start, and always draw a diagram to visualize the solution.
Section 5. Exam Day Execution.
We have finally reached the last whistle. This is where your mindset becomes your ultimate differentiator. I mean, all the studying in the world won't help you if you crash on the morning of the paper. Let's contrast the amateur, panic-driven approach with the professional, strategic one. Amateurs panic. They change up their study plans at the very last minute, they pull all-nighters that totally destroy memory consolidation, and they constantly compare their preparation with friends. All that does is spike anxiety and lead to careless mistakes. Professionals are different. Pros stick firmly to a structured plan. They prioritize 6.5 to 8 hours of sleep because they know a rested brain solves problems significantly faster. They maintain a calm, quiet focus. Be a pro. Protect your sleep and trust your plan. On the big morning, I want you to follow a very specific protocol to keep anxiety at bay. First, eat a familiar breakfast. Don't try anything new that might upset your stomach. Arrive at the exam hall with plenty of time to spare. When you sit down at your desk, just take 3 slow, deep breaths. This literally resets your nervous system. Read the instructions carefully. Then, scan the paper and start with the confident questions first so you can build instant momentum. And crucially, remember this, if you get stuck mid-paper for more than 4 or 5 minutes, you must move on. Leaving a single question blank temporarily is infinitely better than running out of time and missing 5 easy questions at the end of the paper.
I want to leave you with this final critical thought for our explainer today. You have the right strategy, but will you trust your preparation when the clock actually starts ticking? You now possess the absolute best last week playbook. You know how to prioritize your strengths, you know how to effectively trap your mistakes, and you know how to conquer the clock. Remember, your best is enough. Trust your playbook. Stay disciplined and go execute your plan. So the only question left is, are you ready to work smart and crush this exam?